Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind Season 6. So I want to start with Chelsea and Jimmy. And then I'm going to move on to Clay and AD. I'm going to talk a little bit about Clay's mom and Clay's dad, and just my general opinion on this season so far. If you're new to this channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Everyone, please like, share, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Now let's get into today's video. So my assessment of Chelsea and Jimmy's relationship is that Chelsea is very insecure. She's very, very problematic. And Jimmy does not address issues at the right time and can be a little bit vindictive. So throughout the season, we saw Chelsea constantly want and require validation. Oh, you haven't really told me you love me so many times. You haven't really kissed me enough today. Now, I'm not saying that is not something that, you can require from your partner, but it almost seems that her self-esteem, who she is as a person, is dependent on getting those sorts of validations, the affirmation from her partner. It felt almost like an overkill. It's like you want him to constantly be like, oh, Chelsea, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Chelsea, you look like Megan Fox. Chelsea, you're so attractive. Chelsea, the first day I laid my eyes on you, it was just, she wants all of those things. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong in wanting words of affirmation from your partner. But the problem is when you yourself do not think you're beautiful. You yourself do not feel like you're a baddie. You yourself don't feel like, I got it. I'm the best thing since sliced bread, right? Like, if you yourself don't feel it, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. Insecurity is written all over your body. Your energy is insecure. Everything about you just becomes insecure. Like when she went to the party where everyone was like seeing everybody from the pods, I just noticed like her energy was so different because she wanted Jimmy to be all over her. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to be on Jimmy as well. You have to know who you are dating, right? There's some people who are very secure, who are like, okay, when we are out, you go work the room, I'll work the room. We don't have to be necessarily together all the time. But someone who is extremely dependent on you, almost codependent already, wants validation constantly. Of course, she's going to want you to be around her. She's going to want you guys to work the room together. There's nothing wrong with working the room together. Let me be clear on that. But I just think like on this particular occasion, it stems more from a lot of our insecurities. And then Jimmy had the audacity, the gall to basically say AD is stacked. Now, don't get me wrong, AD is stacked. She has a beautiful body, of course. I think we all can see that. But your woman is insecure. So you going on to say that is not going to help your situation at all. Like, what did you think was really going to happen, sir? Or what? You thought Chelsea was going to be like, yeah, she's stacked. I love it. Okay. And move on? No. Of course, she's going to internalize it. She already does not feel good enough to begin with. I remember watching her and just thinking the way she constantly needs reassurance is exhausting. Like, I would struggle to give that if I was in a relationship with someone who constantly required reassurance in the way that Chelsea does. She's just very insecure, and I hope that she would work on that. Now, let's talk about the scene where Jimmy went out for about an hour and a half, came back, and Chelsea was upset about it. Chelsea was going on about she doesn't want someone who goes out and I'm like, sis, he went out for an hour and 30 minutes. I don't care if he told you in the pod he doesn't go out at all. The fact that you don't go out does not mean that one day you wouldn't decide, oh, I want to go out to spend time with my friends for an hour and 30 minutes. Now, of course, you should have been informed. You should have been invited. But sometimes you're allowed to also go by yourself. If I wanted to hang out with my friends without my partner, then I can absolutely do that. Like, I'm hanging out with my friends today. We're doing this. That's all. That's all I get to say. I don't have to worry about someone worrying about where I've been for the last hour and 30 minutes. Like an hour and 30 minutes. I don't even think I've ever hung out with my friends for just an hour and 30 minutes. Like I could be gone for the whole day, the whole evening. Imagine doing that and dating someone like Chelsea. You probably come back home to all your bags packed or something nuts like that. So yeah, I absolutely did not like the way Chelsea was coming across on the screens. I personally feel like I'm not one to try to like be like, oh, this person needs help, but I feel like she does need some therapy. She needs to talk about some of the things that she's experienced. I know she referenced being cheated on a lot of times in the past, and I feel like she needs to work through those issues in counseling of some sort. If not, she's going to bring those issues back up again in her next relationship. She will have the same issues again. So that's what I feel about the Chelsea situation. Now let's talk about Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy is not going to go scot-free. Let's talk about Jimmy. So the angle I want to talk about Jimmy is, let's start with one of the things that really stood out to me about Jimmy. So when Chelsea was addressing the fact that she felt like, oh, she hasn't been kissed all day, she feels like he's not really as expressive with her or whatnot, he then proceeds to say, well, he doesn't want her to initiate sex as much as she does, or something along those lines. And I'm just like, if you felt that way, then you should have brought it up in your own time. I don't like when people bring up your transgression in response to you bringing up theirs. It's like, this is my time. Let me talk about what is bothering me. And then you can talk about what is bothering you, right? Talk about what is bothering you when the issue rises, right? I always feel like, and as someone who has done it in the past, which is like, I don't talk about things when they happen, and then later on, it then becomes like a combination of things. I had to unlearn that really toxic behavior and address things when they happen. Because then when you address it when it happens, it doesn't feel like a tit for tat. Like, for instance, even if, now let's just assume Chelsea was going to receive what Jimmy was saying to her, right? If he had brought it up at a separate time, not on her time, bring it up at a separate time. Like, oh, babe, I love when you initiate sex, but I want you to also give me the opportunity to initiate sex. That's a better way of saying it, as opposed to she's upset about something and then you're like, I'm gonna throw this in there. So it almost feels like a tit for tat vindictive thing instead of addressing things when they come up. And so no one is going to receive and correct things if you bring things up in that way. Like, how seriously am I going to take the fact that I say something and then you throw that in there? I would be thinking you're just saying that to hurt my feelings, as opposed to that's how you really feel. And in any event, I think the fact that he had an issue with that makes me think, or makes me wonder, did he ever even like her to that extent? Was he very sexually attracted to her? If you remember, he kept saying, oh, Chelsea lied. She said that she looks like Megan Fox, but she doesn't look like Megan Fox. He was hung up on that. And I feel like, yes, he eventually accepted what she looked like and all of that. But I feel like initially he wasn't really on that. But I think later on he started to accept what she looked like. But nonetheless, I feel like he needs to do better at bringing things up in the moment. Now, let's talk about one of the things that Chelsea did, which was bring up the fact that he had had sexual encounter with his friend on camera. Now, that is a breach of trust. You shouldn't say something that your spouse has told you privately on camera in a bid to try to embarrass or use it as ammunition in an argument. And I feel like when she did that, Jimmy was done with her. I think at that point he knew he could not marry her. This is my opinion, right? I feel like at that point he knew he could not marry her. He knew that there was no way this was going ahead. Now, what I think is interesting was that even in everything, he was trying to protect that his friend. which makes me feel like Jimmy definitely deeply cares for his friend. Now, it might be that they're not compatible relationship wise, but he has some sort of strong care or feelings towards her, because he seemed more hurt about the fact that she brought it up than the fact that Chelsea was hurt about whatever it is Chelsea was hurt about. Now, it could also be because Chelsea is hurt and upset about a lot of things. So it's hard for you to really be like, okay, this is just another one of Chelsea's antics, right? So I get that. And I feel like Jimmy decided in that moment that, yeah, I got something for you. So the opportunity the night before, he chose Carnage. Because think about it, if it wasn't Carnage, like, why ask her, how are you feeling about this? And, you let her talk about how great this is and how she's feeling it and she's ready to marry you. And then you're like, nope. And one of the things I did like about what Jimmy said in that moment was the fact that she was honest. He said, it's just one issue. And she's like, it's just one issue. And he's like, no, 5 or 6 really big issues. And that's the thing. It just feels like they were both forcing it, trying to make it work when they were not compatible to begin with. I also think that Jimmy wanted to get her back for exposing the fact that he and his friend had an intimate relation. I feel like that was where it stemmed from personally. But I also accept that there have been a lot of arguments, and I think that's also part of it. But I think the greatest argument that really set things back was because I would be so upset if you exposed something I told you privately and then brought it on camera. I can't trust you, so how am I going to marry someone I don't trust? But I do feel like Jimmy chose the night before to tell her. I'm sure he knew that he was not on it since that argument, but still stayed there. So I feel like he should have addressed it with her earlier. But I can't lie to you, that scene was entertaining to me. Let me know what you guys thought of Jimmy and Chelsea and your assessment of their time on Love is Blind. And now I want to talk about Clay and AD. I feel like from the start of the relationship, when he first met her, I feel like he liked her body, but I was not fully convinced that he was really fully into her in that way. I think that maybe she's not necessarily his type physically or facially, but he was attracted to her body because, like, even when they saw each other, like, after the pods, it was almost like he wasn't even, like, kissing her like that. It was almost like kissing her on the shoulder. So I was like, that's a little bit weird. Like, this is the first time you're seeing this woman and you're not really like all over and attracted to her in that way. Like, it just gave me cause for pause. And also, like, when they're in everything else, it's like he always says body, 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 and I'm like, okay, body, yes, she got the body, but what of her face? She's a beautiful girl. Like, why are you not commenting or complimenting other parts of her? And I also noticed, like, when he talks about her to people, he's like, this is what she does for me. She uplifts me. She does this, or she makes me feel like this, right? But there's nothing about she is kind. She is sweet. Does that make sense? It's like, I wasn't seeing qualities that he likes about her. It was more, he felt like, through her, I've learned so much. I've learned so much from her. Like, okay, it's good to learn from your partner, right? But there has to be other things. Like, you should love the heart of the person that you are with and the person you say you love, right? You should love their heart. You should be like, they're like the kindest person you've met, the sweetest person. There's something about the way, like, I just felt like all of that was missing. Now, I do know that Clay's vocabulary is very limited and he does present as childish at times, but I would have still expected that when you're expressing your love for your partner, there's a lot more you can say than body and learning from them and how you've grown. It always almost boils down to him and the impact of AD on him as opposed to who AD is. And I think that is what has always bothered me. The other thing is, like, you're starting out and you're not coming home at night. And I'm like, what are you doing that you're not coming home? Think about it, right? Like, it's an expedited process, right? So this is like the first few days of you getting to know your spouse or whatever. You should want to be home with them. You should want to do things with them. It shouldn't be like, oh, you're not coming home. That is so odd. Like, if I'm really attracted to someone, I really want to be with someone, I really want to be with them, I want to run home to them. The idea of them being at home waiting for me is so exciting that I want to make sure I leave wherever I am early so I can get home. So it's just very odd that, like, in the beginning stages, like, of course, like, when you've been dating for a while and stuff, yes, the excitement is still there, but you already know, like, I gotta work, so I can't get home as early as I would want to, but when I get home, it would be fine, right? But, like, you just met this girl, you're just, like, staying in the same space, and you're not rushing to come home. So for me, that bothered me, and I was like, I don't like that at all. The other thing is, I really feel like AD ignored a lot of signs, because this man told you from day one he doesn't know how to lead in relationships. He talked about his father, how his greatest fear is cheating. He talks about all these things that makes it clear that this man needs to do some work before he would be ready to be in a relationship. Talk less of marriage, right? Like, we're not even saying marriage right now. We're saying a basic relationship and having the tools that you need for a relationship. You need extensive therapy. You also need, like, some positive reinforcement. You need people around you. I feel like he needs positive examples of marriages around him. Like, when we think about some of the things that Clay has expressed, that his father would take him on cheating trips. Do you know the sort of guilt that puts in a kid? I had a friend who had a similar experience. Her father would be cheating on her mother. Her father would tell her, like, try to bring her into the arrangement. Her father would bring another woman into their matrimonial home and have the daughter cover up for him. That sort of craziness. And those things can result in, like, a child who doesn't know how to date, who doesn't know what to look for, who is toxic in their interactions, who fears commitment, for instance, right? And we know Clay is within that, someone who has, like, concern about being committed. He has serious commitment issues. So I feel like there is a lot of work that Clay needs to do to be in a position to date anybody. But there is also a lot of work that AD needs to do on herself. I feel like, yes, she's a beautiful girl, but I feel like she does not believe in her source as much as she should. Because if someone is basically unsure about you, talking like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not that, or whatnot, because there's never been any interaction that Clay and AD have had that I left thinking Clay cares and is in love with this woman. Every interaction almost seems contrived in a way. It almost seems like it's not really flowing. It's from AD, you can see all of the interest, but from Clay, you're seeing little to no interest. Please correct me if you think I'm wrong in the comment section below. But the whole time I just kept thinking, this man does not like you that much. This man is not convinced about you, because all your affections, you're leaning, you're this, you're that. And he is almost like having the conversation like it's like you guys are in school trying to, like, work things out. Like, oh, 5 + 5 is this. Like, that's the way. There was no softness. There was no affection, expressiveness, expressing some form of affection towards her. So I personally did not like that at all. And I was like, that should have been a telltale sign for you, AD. And the fact that it wasn't makes me know that you love a build-a-bear. You love to build. You love to save people. There is something within you that is attracted to having to help build people up in some way. It's almost like you love a project. And I remember that she said something like that in the pods. And I was like, sis, this is going to be a problem for you. I just knew as soon as I heard that, I'm like, I know that that is going to be her downfall, because she was putting all her affection, attention towards Clay, but not being observant and noticing that he wasn't doing the same. And so, if I'm being completely honest, I knew that he was not going to say yes at the altar. I knew it. I was so sure about it. And let's even talk about the altar for a second, honey. Like, that was heartbreaking. She came there clueless, really expecting this man. And this then makes me wonder, like, Clay or AD, are you paying attention? You really thought this man was going to say yes? Which means, like, her radar isn't even, like, working properly. Like, her antenna, when it comes to, like, observing and paying attention to non-verbal cues, is not where it needs to be, because she's, like, just head over heels, right? She walks up in that dress and he sees her and just says, buddy. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. He couldn't even say, you look so beautiful. You look so gorgeous. Like, there wasn't even, like, affection in his eyes. He just felt like two roommates hanging out together in front of the altar. Like, I just did not feel it at all. And yes, of course, I know part of it is Clay's experiences, but I think part of it is he expected a certain physical type and she wasn't his expectation, and so he was having to adjust. But I think that he thinks her body is nice, but I don't necessarily think he thinks about her as a person with feelings, with qualities, with personality, all of that. It's almost like, hey, buddy. Honestly, I found that very, very weird. Now, would I have gone for the dress that she went for to walk down the aisle? No, absolutely not. I feel like she needs to... It's something a little bit more tasteful, right? Like, don't lead with your body so much. And I feel like that's something that she does quite a bit. And I know you guys may troll me in the comment section for what I said, but I honestly feel like that. And I know it can be easy to do that when you have a nice body and, like, you get a lot of attention for your body, because I understand, because I do as well. I get a lot of attention for my body, right? And you can get to a point where it's just like, it's always on the forefront. It's like, ooh, every time you go somewhere, it's like, I'm a served body, right? But I feel like there should be way more than that to you. People need to be able to see you for who you are, and more of your personality and other things besides body. Because when people see you for body, then they want to have sex with you, and that's all that it is. They don't see you as anything else beyond an object to have sex with, or have sexual relation, whatever, right? Or have some sort of sexual contact with. As opposed to, oh wow, you're a beautiful girl who enjoys doing this, and who I love her mind. I love how she talks about this. They don't see those things about you, because they're so heavily engrossed in what your body looks like. And I feel like she needs to try not to... I know it's hard, because, like, you have a nice body, no one is ever going to take that away from you. But I think she also needs to not lead with her body in the way in which she does. Like, even when she was talking about, like, sex and all of that, and the way she was talking about it, I was like, girl, you need to focus on building an emotional connection before you're opening your legs just because he proposed to you right after he saw you, right? Like, if I was doing this process, I would say I would encourage everyone to hold off on sex until the actual wedding, where you get yes or no. Because first, that protects you from, the bigger heartbreak you're going to face after doing that. But also, I feel like it allows you to connect on an emotional level. Like, think about it. If you can really focus on getting to know each other without the sexual element, without really, like, focusing on that body, then I think they would have been able to build a little bit more of a connection. Or it would have been immediately obvious that this is not your match. And I think it's we need to learn that, yes, I know society is very sexualized and I know people want to do all of that, and that's fine if that's how you live your life. But I think that sometimes if you're looking for more of an emotional connection, I personally would suggest like focusing on that first and making sure that is solid first before you then have the sexual relations. Now, of course, I'm a Christian, so you already know what I'm going to say. You know what the Bible says about that. But what I'm saying is just focus more on the emotional connection and let the other things come in the rightful place and time, right? So that's what I thought about AD and Clay. I feel like AD has a lot to learn in terms of, yeah, like just paying more attention to the non-verbal cues. Listen to what someone says. Don't let a man have to tell you more than once that he don't want you. He's expressed it in different ways. And even after he said no to you at the altar, you still allowed this man to come in your face to come and kiss you. No, you shouldn't have to make him feel better about himself by letting him come and kiss you. No. I will say it was very heartbreaking for me to see AD say, why is she never chosen? That really hurt me to the core. And I hope she heals from that. And I hope she gets to a point where she chooses herself always and pays attention to know who to choose. Don't choose a project. Don't choose a project. You don't need a project. You already have what you're working on, right? So don't choose a partner who is a project. So let's shift gears a little bit to Clay's mom and Clay's dad. So this was probably the highlight for me. Honestly, I was like, Mama Clay is not playing, and I'm absolutely here for it. For me, I loved how Mama Clay addressed Clay's dad and said to him that he is the reason, basically, in other words, he's the reason that Clay came out here with all of those emotions. Clay has not really seen a solid marriage, basically. Clay has commitment issues. And one of the things she said is she has forgiven him, but he needs to take accountability and apologize for those things that he's done. The thing is, Clay, like I said, Clay needs therapy, but also Clay's dad needs to also be in therapy. Because one of the things I noticed was their interaction was not really father and son. It was given homeboys. And I thought, that's your father. Is he doing any fathering? Like, of course, I don't want to be like, we only saw a few minutes. So I don't want to completely come at his fathering skills because I don't know for sure. But what I will say is it came across as homeboy. And it made me wonder, was it something where he had a father that never really corrected him? And also a father that did not really lead a good example. Think about all the things that Clay said he saw with his father, right? You saw all these things. No wonder you are like that, right? But it's not an excuse because now you know better, so you should do better. There's also so many tools around where you can get the help that you absolutely need. But I think it would be very beneficial for Clay's daddy to also go to therapy. So I would suggest Clay goes to therapy by himself and then Clay and daddy go to therapy. Because the thing is, there are lots of things that Clay has not addressed to his father to let him know how those things hurt and impacted him. He doesn't yet have the tools. But I feel like as soon as he starts going to therapy and starts working and talking to someone about it, he would be able to address it properly as it needs to be done. I loved how Clay's mom shot it down when Clay's dad started talking about he didn't have a good example. And she basically brought it up as, yes, you didn't have a good example. I didn't either. But at the end of the day, we should not raise or put that brokenness on our child. And I feel like, I hope that Clay's father listened and Clay's father will make adjustments. But sometimes with these people, man, they're too far gone. So let's talk really quickly about Amy and Johnny. So the thing about it is I felt like they didn't give us enough of Amy and Johnny for me to really buy into their love story like that. Like, I feel like they're absolutely adorable. It feels like they have such a good connection. They get along so well. I didn't see them have any major issues. Now, I know they were talking about contraceptives and how Johnny doesn't want a baby. Amy doesn't want a baby either, but Amy doesn't want to use contraception, which I understand, because of different things. But yeah, like, it just felt like it was such a it in the grand scheme of things, that was like such a minor issue compared to the other couples. And so, like, I felt that in a way, I feel like it just shows that the show very much carries drama, and it's about the dramatic couples, because I feel like they didn't give us enough of a story for Amy and Johnny, and I wish that they have, because I feel like if they did, then I would be so invested in their love story, but I am not, to be completely honest with you. But I feel like they could go the long haul, to be completely honest. It feels like they both found their person, so I'm happy for them on that one. Now let's move on to Kenneth and Brittany. So I personally feel like Kenneth was not attracted to Brittany. Like, Brittany is a very gorgeous woman, but I feel like that's not his type. And I feel like he just was not able to reconcile that, because he was very, very cold towards her. Like, I understand being like doing no sex until marriage, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be like attracted to me. You shouldn't want to like touch me and kiss me and interact with me. It should be that you want to do all of those things, but then you're holding off and doing too much, as opposed to there is no crave to do any of that. You're not even feeling it at all, And so I just feel like that's like one of the things that I was thinking about, and I kept looking at them and I was like, this is not going to work. And I feel like AD also got into Kenneth's head when she told him about like, oh, dating outside the race, and don't you want someone that understands, and black love. And don't get me wrong, I hear what you're saying about black love and whatnot, but at the same time, I feel like he went on a show about Love is Blind. So of course, whoever he meets should, regardless of what they look like, should be okay for him. I absolutely agreed with the fact that Brittany was direct and honest and said she feels like there is a lack of real intimacy, because he just felt like there were two roommates just living together and having to be in each other's space. He seemed very like, there were moments where he was just quiet for no reason. And don't get me wrong, I know people can be quiet, but it felt like, some people are quiet together and it's like, ooh, this is such a surreal experience. This one felt awkward. It felt like something was on his mind. So it was just weird. And it felt like he was almost like just very passive towards her in a way that I did not like. And I feel like he would have been content to just continue staying there and doing nothing about it. But I'm glad Brittany was like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here. I love a woman who understands what she wants and who knows when she's not getting what she needs. Because I was looking at her like, girl, I hope you need to dump this man. And I'm glad she did. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of them. And that's all I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I'm going to be covering the reunion trailer in a separate video. So yeah, please stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that bell for notifications so you know every single time that I post. Don't forget to like this video, share, and leave a comment in the comment section below. And I will see you guys later. Bye.